welcome to Today on Bay TV. I'm Rachel Hopkins and I'm joined by Rev Ian Rees of St Mary's Church in Swansea, right in the centre.
Absolutely.
So even if anybody hasn't been in, I think everybody knows where your church is.
Yes,
because
it's fairly prominent there.
It's a beautiful church.
It's a surprising amount of people come in who've never been in before and are always amazed at what's inside, really, because it's quite bright and airy once you come inside. But there's a lot of people from Swansea who've lived in Swansea a long time who'll come in for a concert or something and say, I've never been in here before, so...
Because, of course, the church is open to other things apart from your Sunday service, isn't it?
Yeah, absolutely. The church is open every day. Aim to be open sort of 9:30 till 3 every day, and there's a coffee shop in there. There's various services. Yeah, a coffee shop. I mean, not quite as posh as Starbucks or anything like that, but you know, it's a nice coffee shop with sandwiches and cakes, and actually brings a lot of people. Yeah, it brings in a lot of people. A lot of regulars, but a lot of people who just come and, as you say, fancy something nice.
Yeah, and that must help reach out to the community as well.
Yeah, it does. We're able to do little bits as well for people who are struggling, who perhaps genuinely can't afford anything as well. It's a way of helping. You know, you feel so useless at times with some of the homeless problems and things, but at least if you can give them some sandwiches, cake, and a cup of tea, they've got something which.
So you have a lot of people calling into the church.
Yeah, it can be quite busy there. Afternoons are usually quieter. I'm not quite sure why, but during the mornings and over lunchtime, it tends to get fairly busy. Or people doing all kinds of things. Coffee shop, or just coming in to sit and pray, or light a candle, or anything. You know, just reflect. You've
been at St Mary's just over a year, and previously you were at Gowerton. Do you see a lot of different issues being city centre as opposed to slightly further out?
Yeah, it is. It's Gowerton is very much a sort of village feel to it. The church didn't tend to be open during the day purely because there weren't people walking past in the same way. So it tended to be a much more organised sort of lifestyle in a way, whereas St Mary's is quite chaotic in some ways because you can't plan what will happen in a day. You can go in with nothing much in your diary for a day and something will take over completely. That
must have been why you went into the church, though, isn't it?
Yeah.
To make that difference.
Absolutely. Yeah, it does. It gives huge opportunities. Being where it is there, it just gives massive opportunities. And in a lot of churches, you might plan to do things to help. You know, you do different things, which is great. In St Mary's, it just comes to you in a way. So you need to just respond as it comes.
And be prepared for anything.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
And you said that you've just been there over a year. How long are you at each church before you?
It can vary. There isn't a definite time. Normally, once you start your first church after training, you do about 3 years, but it's very much about 3 years, and then you usually go to your first church on your own then. But after that, really, it's largely up to you or to the bishop to say, yes, I want to move, or the bishop, I want you to move.
Yeah. What is that sort of based on? You know?
I guess there's an element of need where other places are. There's that idea of feeling called to a place as well, you know, which callings come in lots of different ways, but actually, you know, feeling that you're being led somewhere particular. Swansea here, St Mary's was a bit of a shock in many ways to me, but when the bishop mentioned it, it seemed right. It seemed it seemed the right thing to do. Whereas before, I probably wouldn't have even thought about it. But,
are you originally from Swansea?
No, a place called Dinas Powys between Cardiff and Barry. So
and you were called to Swansea.
Yes, yeah. I moved around a little bit. I was ordained in Llandaff Diocese, and then moved up to Llandrindod, though, which is in Swansea and Brecon Diocese.
Very different from.
Very different again. Yeah, it's and it's lovely to have that variety. Llandrindod it was 5 churches, but the largest church there is very much in the town centre and feels a lot bigger than it is because Llandrindod is the centre of that area very much. It's much bigger than all the places around, so it's nice to have
talking
variety.
About being called, of course, you've recently been called over to Jerusalem, weren't you?
Yes. So we went this time. It's the 5th time I've been, actually, and this time we went just my wife and I and a friend of ours, and we hired a car and just stayed in 2 places, Tiberias, which is on the Sea of Galilee, and Jerusalem, and did our own thing. Whereas before I've always been as part of pilgrimages or the first time a study tour on peace and reconciliation.
And what does that entail?
The peace and reconciliation, it was organised by Rochester Diocese, and I'd just seen it advertised, and I'd been fascinated by the history, the politics, as well as the sort of religious aspect of it. And we went to lots of different places where there's been conflict in throughout the Holy Land, but also places where there is signs of reconciliation, which generally we only ever hear the bad news about the Holy Land, and there's lots and lots of that at times. But there are lots of little things happening as well where people actually do want to get together, and I still think a majority of the people there really do want to live together happily and peacefully and just get on with life.
We need to hear more about that.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think they're desperate, the Christians, particularly out in the Holy Land, because the Christians have dwindled hugely. There's not very many Christians left out in the Holy Land for various reasons, but they're desperate for people to come and just be shown around. It's not to get money or anything. They don't need that particularly. They just need people to pray for them, people to care for them, people to see what they're doing.
And what did you take from those meetings, and how did they enrich sort of your religious work in Swansea and Wales?
I think there's a number of things really. I think first of all it's little things like some of the biblical stories come to life because you go to the places where they might have happened. In Nazareth, which is not my favourite place in the Holy Land, there's not very much there really. But there's a YMCA have done a first century village there, which is really impressive, and you see lots of the things which are, it's almost like a mini theme park of the first century when Jesus would have been around. But actually they show a lot of the things that you then go from place to place when you're travelling around, and you see sheep and goats together in the field, which you hear about in the Bible, but you don't see sheep and goats together in the fields here. Silly little things like that, but you know, it can really give you a sort of powerful sense of place, and you recognise that a lot of the Bible things are relevant to the place where they were as well, and the stories actually around the Sea of Galilee, you know, the idea of the fishermen around the Sea of Galilee, an incredibly beautiful place. Again, doesn't really get the coverage of being an incredibly beautiful place because, again, it's been associated with so many bad things. But you just come back with that sense of being somewhere where a lot's happened. I'm not generally very good at thinking of places and thinking, oh, that really moved me. But there is something out there that just makes you feel, yeah, it's powerful to be there.
You said Nazareth wasn't your favourite place. Have you got a favourite place in Jerusalem?
I really like the bustle of Jerusalem, the old walls there, you know, the narrow, very narrow streets within the old city. I enjoy that. I enjoy that bustle, and there's noise, and there's lots of different cultures meeting, you know, from the most Orthodox of Jews to the Muslims to the Christians, the Armenians. You know, you've got a mix in a very small area there, and I love that. My wife loves Galilee, much more peaceful. You've got the Sea of Galilee, which is beautiful. You know, hills around you, and so I can see the attraction of that too. But I do like the both centres, which they tend to form the main stage of any pilgrimage or anything there, and that's what we did this time. We did 5 nights up in Galilee and then 2 nights in Jerusalem. So.
And are you going to go again soon? Do you think 5 times is enough? Or
I'd go back over and over again. I think there's so much to see, so much to learn. The people there are fascinating. They're very welcoming. You know, they're really accommodating. They want people to come.
You said not many of them are Christians anymore. The other people, are they just not religious? Because
no, there's quite a large. Well, the Jewish population is obviously quite large now, and is still growing very quickly. A lot of Jewish people have come in from Russia as well to come back to what they see as their homeland, sort of thing. But there's also quite a strong Muslim population as well there. But the Christian population is really powerful there because it almost acts as a bridge as well between the Muslim and the Jewish population.
And very different, I suppose, from Swansea Christians.
Very different.
Which, of course, anybody that wants to come and see you and have a cup of coffee,
they'd be very welcome.
Mary's
Absolutely.
in Swansea.
Yes.
Thank you for coming to join us, Reverend Ian, and we shall see you again very soon.
Thank you.
And thank you to all of our guests today for joining us, and thank you at home and online for tuning in, and we shall see you all again tomorrow. Goodbye for now.